Hello and welcome to another episode of the Blind Truth podcast. And today we are joined by Emmanuel Ale, who is an actor from the Bradford area.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for coming today, Emmanuel. Good to see you.
You too.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, where you were born, brought up, etc. And we'll take it from there.
So obviously, originally I'm from. I'm Bradford based. However, I was born in London originally, but I also used to live in America for about almost 6 years when I was younger. So I was born in 1997 in London, northwest London in particular. I was there for 6 years. Then
Right.
moved over to the States, Houston, Texas in particular.
Houston?
Yeah, Houston.
Oh, right.
So I was there for almost 6 years, and we came back.
Yeah.
We came to the Manchester area in particular. So yeah.
So you got it right in the end then.
Yeah.
So were you raised? Did you say in northwest London?
Yeah. I was for the first 6 years of my life. I was raised in northwest London.
Right.
When I was 6, me and my family moved over to the States, and we came back to the UK.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. So when did you first realise you wanted to be an actor?
So the first time I ever did acting was at the age of 14.
Mm-hmm.
So I did GCSE drama at school. The reason why I got into it was because of the fact that for the most part I was a shy kid. I'm still pretty now. So,
Most actors are, you know.
Yeah. And also I think I was going through a lot at the time, so I think acting kind of came my way to kind of express myself.
Sure.
I think as a lot of actors, I tend to come across art like that as well, usually anyway.
Yeah. Just do me a favour, just push that mic away a little tiny bit because you're just a bit too loud on it.
There you go. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. That's fine. Thank you.
So obviously, I did GCSE drama for 2 years. What happened was I passed the practical bit, so the performance bit, like the physical performance bit.
Sure.
Passed it, but when it came to the written exam, I failed it completely.
Right.
So I couldn't go on to do like drama at A-level university.
Yeah.
At A-level theatre, because that's what I wanted to do. But
Theatre.
Like theatre. Beyond that, however, I didn't. Obviously, because I failed GCSE drama, I didn't get the qualification to do it.
Right.
However, I got my normal GCSEs, etc. So like my English, math, science,
Sure.
stuff like that.
Sure.
So obviously, I went down what a lot of people probably call the quote unquote typical route of education. So getting A levels.
I think standard education they call it, don't they? Something like that.
Yeah, standard education.
Yeah.
So obviously went to A levels, got my A levels, went to university. I was in one university, didn't do too well on that course, dropped out, took a year out. Went to another university, and then got my degree there.
Right.
However, during the last year of my degree, undergraduate degree, COVID hit eventually.
Right.
So what happened was, for me personally, I think COVID took me a chance to just step back and just really reevaluate my options.
Right.
Because I was applying for like other things, like applying for like graduate schemes to get onto it. Like I was getting applications were just getting unsuccessful, etc. So I'm like, okay, let me just sit back, take a minute, just rethink my career path.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about, and that's when the interest of acting came back up after so long. Because the last time I did acting before then was back in GCSE. So that was 2013 when I did it.
Right.
The last time I ever did it.
Right. So what age are you, Emmanuel?
I'm 27.
27, right?
Yeah, I'm 27.
You're a baby. I'm 58. Gosh. So I was 31 when you were born. Great. I feel so good now. I wonder my kids call me a fossil, but anyway. So are you married?
No, I'm single.
Single? No children?
No children. No.
Wow. Any plans?
Probably not right now in the future.
No.
Well, probably not right now.
Yeah.
I'm even though I'm still a bit scared about the future. It may not happen, it may not. So I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. So you mentioned COVID came, and all of that, and we've all experienced it. I got the keys for this studio in December 2019, and literally 6 weeks later we were in lockdown.
Right.
So I just started to refurb the place and get it right. And the reason I'm mentioning that is some people I've heard that, and all respect goes out to anybody who lost loved ones. I'm one of them. I lost my mother during COVID. Thank you. But so it worked for some people.
Yeah.
And I think I'm one of them.
Yeah.
And it sounds really selfish when you say it,
Yeah.
but it gave me time.
Yeah.
After I became vision impaired
Right.
just before. I was an actor and a stunt guy on TV and having films and what have you. And I decided, as soon as I declared to my then agent that I'm officially blind, I'm registered as blind, which is why we're called Magoo. You're probably too young to remember Mr. Magoo, which was a cartoon character that was blind back in the 70s.
Right.
It's the reason we're called Magoo. But so because I kind of declared it to my then agent, it was a fantastic agent, Tracy. She was a lovely lady, a great agent. But as soon as I said blind, my auditions went from about 6 a month to nothing. And never recovered. Never ever recovered.
Right.
Now, there's a if you like, a corporate world, and then there's what I call a real world. And I spoke to many casting directors, and every one of them, men and women, they all said to me, it won't make any difference whatsoever. Well, of course we would include you, blah, 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 the diversity thing and all of that.
Yeah.
Of course we would never, ever not include you because of a disability, blah. But in the real world, they did.
Yeah. And it's funny that you bring it up because I know of someone who's quite outspoken on social media. I'm not going to say their names.
Yeah, sure. You're free to mention anybody you want, but it's entirely up to you if you don't want to.
Yeah, I'm not going to mention their name.
Yeah.
But they'll probably see this and probably know I'm talking about them anyway.
Right.
They're quite outspoken on social media, even though they have been outspoken as much. But they've told me, well, well, not me personally, but they've told it out loud that they're neurodivergent, and being neurodivergent in the industry, for in their experience, is kind of limited. It's kind of limited them from getting opportunities, basically.
Yeah.
So when they put on their spotlight application that they're neurodivergent, the amount of auditions just goes down.
Yeah, well, mine went to 0 and never ever recovered.
So,
and I gave it in as a bad job. I mean, I'm still officially an actor and I'm still on Spotlight, which we're going to come to shortly. Yeah. But I kind of thought, well, if I make my own films, build my own studio, make my own films, and if I don't cast myself, that's my own problem then, isn't it? You know what I mean? I'm guaranteed to get a role because it's my film.
Yeah.
And I was given that advice by lots and lots of people in the industry that said, just go make your own.
Yeah.
Just go make your own, and that's what I've done.
Yeah. And another thing to add to that, I think now, especially with the way the industry is, where I haven't really recovered since the strikes last year, since like the Riot Skills Association strike and the
SAG-AFTRA stuff.
I think now, and now I fully realize that the best way to make it now is to create your own stuff.
100%. I totally agree.
Because, especially with the way, I think there was 2 stats saying that the rate of productions now, in both the UK and in the US as well, it's gone down massively, by almost half. So I think one article said 40%. The rate of production in the US has gone down by 40%, and then here in the UK, 52% of the screen industry is out of work. So the industry is in a good state right now, if we were to be honest with you. But I think within that frame of there being not much work offered, I think the best thing to do now is to create your own work.
100%.
So I think for the quote unquote indie film industry, if you want to call it that, if there is one anyway.
Yeah, there is one. Yeah.
I think it's the perfect time for them now. They in truth though, they should fully capitalize off this now. Yeah. Because the fact there's no opportunity to work, it's a good time for the independent stuff outside the mainstream of Hollywood to really fully take the opportunity and create work basically now. I think
so. I agree with you completely. But with that in mind, though, where do you stand on this? I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Do you think that making your own films, as long as you invest and you buy the equipment and you learn to use it properly and you cast it properly, and all things considered, if you were to make a really, really, really good film, do you believe that will open doors for people?
Yes, because
a lot of people don't. A lot of people are very skeptical of it.
No. I'll be honest with you. I've seen examples. Even people that have made it into the mainstream. Yeah. And especially particularly with people that feel as if they come from very backgrounds where they're very underrepresented. I think they said that the best way for them, the only alternative was to make their own films because they weren't going to get seen.
Yeah.
Because I can name a few people. So I think somebody like Noel Clarke, if you've heard of him.
I haven't. No.
I think so. He made a film. Well, he was very obviously he's been cancelled now due to certain controversy. But I don't want to get into that. But obviously, he in two part. I think he started in the industry like in the late 90s, early 2000s. So he was getting seen for a bit, but then what he said was that there was going to be a certain point where he wasn't going to get seen.
Yeah.
So he wrote his own films, basically 2 films in particular that he wrote. They're like legendary. It's called Kidulthood and Adulthood. And he wrote it, and then obviously he started it basically, and it pretty much boosted his career as well. Another example is I think the guy who made Baby Reindeer, the Baby Reindeer series, Richard Gadd. He wrote that, because I think that was his own experience as well. But he wrote that. He wrote out his own stuff and he starred in it, and then that's pretty much giving him more attention. So I think there are examples of where people that they made their own stuff and wrote it, and then that's what really boosted the opportunities.
I think doing that is definitely the way forward now. I couldn't agree with you more. But I think part of the skill, if you like, from my perspective as a filmmaker now, is recognising when that door has opened, because it's not always very clear that it has opened, and it's only open for a very short window of time, and you've got to spot it, recognise it that it has just opened, and then boot it in. Literally get in, and because once you've had success with a film, and again, the definition of success varies from person to person. I've got a good friend who made a film. In fact, to this day, it's the best short film I've ever seen, and there wasn't a word of dialogue in it.
Really?
Not a word. It was a silent film, although it had sound effects, as it were. And it was a zombie film, and I don't like zombie films. It wasn't your archetypal zombie film. It wasn't very typical. But it was brilliant. It was called A Father's Day by a friend of mine called Matt Johns, and he's a brilliant filmmaker. And I think he won something like 40 odd awards at festivals all over the planet. Brilliant film. And yet, but it wasn't capitalised upon. I believe it should have been. And I think he's trying to make a feature of it now, but it's kind of, in my opinion, shout out to Matt, no disrespect, mate, it's probably too long now. But when that success comes, that door opens, recognise it as an actor, as a filmmaker, as a whatever in the industry, see that it's open and then boot it down, and keep pushing, obviously. But so many people think, no, that's it now, it'll come to me now. I'm not saying Matt did that, by the way, but some do. Oh, I've got 40 awards for this film, so they're going to come to me now, and they won't. They just won't. So we did pre-discuss Spotlight, didn't we? Yeah. So I know you got something that you wanted to say about that, if you want to, that is.
Yeah, I mean, so just to talk about it, so.
There is a debate at the moment, isn't there, between Equity and Spotlight? I've heard little bits about what's going on.
It's a court case.
Is it actually a court case?
Yeah, I
didn't realise that.
They want to take Spotlight to court, I think. Equity wants to take Spotlight to court, or actors want Equity to take Spotlight to court.
Right.
In terms of charging the fact that Spotlight charge their fees, basically. They charge actors to pay to be on the service, basically.
To be on the platform.
To be on the platform.
Yeah.
Because a lot of actors think that now Spotlight is extortionate, or it's exploitative, or it's just calling people out of money. In my honest opinion, again, what it comes down to is actors, and I'm not saying this in a way to ridicule anybody. I'm not, honestly.
Of course not.
But what I'm saying is, I think a lot of the frustration of actors who are complaining about them feeling that Spotlight is extorting them it's exploiting them for money, or it's charging them for money, is really what it comes down to is a lot of times these are actors that aren't getting seen for the most part. They're frustrated that they're not getting seen.
Yeah.
Because
very often there's other reasons for that, isn't there? But,
But because from my understanding, the way Spotlight works is that obviously there's a big database of where you have, let's say, 90,000 to 100,000 actors. on different agents, and also including the actors that are self-represented as well. And then comparing that to, let's say, 200 to 300 casting directors. On the perspective on the casting directors, it's going to be very difficult to see every individual actor. It's going to be impossible.
You can't do it.
So, so the issue is, some actors are going to get seen, some aren't.
Yeah. Of course.
The ones who don't get seen, obviously, and obviously when it's a case of when Spotlight want to increase their fees, they're going to feel some type of way as well, especially with that case as well. They're going to feel angry about it. They're going to feel that they're not getting their money's worth, basically. Yeah. So that's what it comes down to.
Well, then don't buy it. I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you in principle. But again, there's nothing compulsory about it.
Yeah.
Although, as I mentioned to you earlier before we came on, that when I first started acting, I was told, without Spotlight, you're nothing. Right. You're invisible. Yeah. You may not get anything from Spotlight, but you definitely won't get anything if you're not on it. Yeah. So it's a bit like it's a lose-lose almost. Yeah. It's not. I'm great with Spotlight. I mean, I'm a registered agent on Spotlight. I'm still a registered actor on Spotlight. But in 11 years, I've never had a job from Spotlight, not one. And that's just a bare fact of it. I'm not against Spotlight in any way, but that is a fact, and that can be borne out very easily.
I mean, looking at it from my perspective, and obviously I don't want to sound as if I'm condescending or patronizing or anything.
Of course not. Absolutely I'm not. You won't come across that way at all, honestly.
No, but from my perspective, because I've been on Spotlight since 2021 early. So in the past 3 years, I've booked 3 jobs from it.
Right.
So
that's one a year on average, then, isn't it?
Yeah. But still, I still get auditions like monthly.
Right.
So I've got a TK Maxx commercial. I've done a BBC commercial, and then I did a drama reconstruction for ITVX last year.
Right.
Without Spotlight, I wouldn't have been on those things.
So it's worth it for you, then, isn't it?
It's worth it for me. So and I think for any actor, the way I see it is, if you're on Spotlight and you have an agent, and then your agent is at least getting you between 1 to 3 a month, you're doing fine.
Yeah.
Compared to others that they're probably getting like 1 every 2 months, or some some even not at all even, basically.
I know many actors that aren't getting anything, not even getting a heavy pencil. Never mind getting an audition. Not even getting penciled for anything. And good actors, well trained, been in classes for years and learnt the craft as a craft, which I think is what. In my experience of actors generally, and this is a generalisation which I normally would keep away from. Yeah. But again, this is based on my experience as an actor myself, as an agent now, as a trainer, a teacher of acting, which I do. We do that here at Magoo as well, and. Actors don't seem to want to invest in themselves. Right, okay. Now, I know we're talking finances here, and the times are hard, and cost of living crisis. We can make all the excuses in the world. Yeah. I've spoke to actors who've said, I can't afford to come to class. And I go, okay, no one's going to hold that against you. If you can't afford classes, but then that very same actor, you see them a week later at a champagne reception in Corfu.
At a party.
At a party. Exactly. So it's a bit like, so it wasn't that you can't afford it, it's just that you can't afford both, and that was your priority, not this. Yeah. So that's the difference for me. And I come across filmmakers the same and actors the same. And you say to them, have you got IMDb? And you go, yeah, of course I have. And it's always the free account. Yeah. They try and edit their so-called potential blockbuster film, friends of mine, on a free version of editing software. And it's rubbish. It's free for a reason, because it's worthless. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's a bit like advice. It's given for free because it's normally worthless. Yeah. So if you fail to invest in yourself, how could you possibly expect a decent production team to gamble on you going in their production? Just using the example of the local soap opera, Coronation Street. Everyone knows Coronation Street. I've got pretty good authority that if you take everything into account, the logistics, the catering, all the crew, all the cast, it costs about 30 grand an hour to film Coronation Street. Right. So if you get someone, an actor, quote unquote, on that set, who displays ineptitude beyond belief. They're supposed to be an actor and they can't get the line. If you just say to that person, well, can I just have an hour to learn the script?
Yeah.
You've cost them 30 grand.
Right.
So of course and I think actors tend to view the casting directors as God.
Right.
But actually, they're just as under the cosh as actors are.
Yeah.
Because if they get it wrong, the people above them, the producers and the executive producers, they're going to get the sack too.
Yeah.
So they're gambling on you. So you have to impress the hell out of these people and prove. This is why I think what appears to be nepotism sometimes.
Right.
I think once they've found an actor that really delivered on set, was punctual, turned up on time, was off the book and delivered and nailed the role completely and was brilliant to work with,
Right.
once they found someone like that, they'll use them again and again and again.
Yeah.
And actors, I've heard many actors, even our actors here, say, why are they using the same people over and over again? Why don't they give someone else a chance? I can understand that.
Yeah.
But from their point of view, because I've been on both sides of the camera now, from the casting director's point of view, I can get it now.
Yeah.
You know, do you want this guy who last time when you worked with him last year, he was absolutely brilliant in everything that he did? Or are you going to take a gamble on this new guy?
Yeah.
You're going to pick the one that you know is going to deliver.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's what we're up against as actors.
Yeah.
To get them to say, well, look, let me show you. Yeah, that's all well and good. This is why show reels are important, which is our bread and butter here. That's what we do. Again, we do show reels for people. Yeah. Cheapest in Manchester, so there's a plug. And it's so important that. But people ring me up and they say, I need to get a show reel. I'm not getting any auditions. Right. Okay, fine. We charge £300 plus VAT for a full show reel. That's 360 quid with a VAT. Right. That's 3 scenes, and we write them, film them, colour them, edit them, and deliver them in 2 days. Right. Perfect. And on high-end professional cameras. Right. 360? Oh, no, I can't afford that. Right. Well, what do you expect? Right. If you want to do one on your phone, fine, crack on and see how far you don't get with it. You know, if you want to get something done proper, and if you can't afford to invest 300 quid in your career, what do you hope to get from it? They're not going to gamble. If you can't even afford to do that, they're not going to gamble on you to put you in a soap or a film, and neither would I now as a filmmaker. You know, it's awful, but it's an awful truth that. And so they go on IMDb. That costs you. I've done the figures on this. Excuse me if I sound a bit anal with this, because I teach actors as well, and I've taught them all this. You have to invest in yourself, and if you went on every possible platform, from the Actors Guild to Spotlight to IMDb Pro, you must be an equity member, because that looks after you while you're on set. And I totally believe in that. All of our actors, it's compulsory for them. I make them go on it, or we don't take them on. Because we need them to be looked after on set. And if you're an equity member, you are. So if you did all of them, it'll cost you just over 2,000 quid a year. That's not a lot of money. That's 40 quid a week or something. It's not even that. So if you're not prepared to invest that in what could be a life-changing opportunity, then what are you doing? What are you doing, really? That's my honest opinion. If you can't do that, you should do something else. I was told by somebody who I won't name from one of these big platforms that at this moment in time, there are 8 million people on their tax returns in the UK identifying as actors. 8 million. And 92% of those are unemployed at any one time. I mean, that's there's odds like you just don't want to even you don't bear even looking at, you know. I know a lot of very, very high end quality actors that have been in big shows who can't even get an audition at the minute. It's hard work, but you have to invest in yourself. And the problem is, you can invest the 2,000 quid and still get nowhere. You don't guarantee getting anything, but you're in with a shout. If you don't do that, you're guaranteeing that you won't, in my opinion. That's my honest opinion. Invest in yourself, believe in yourself. Never mind going to Corfu on the piss for a week, or the lads with Ibiza or whatever. Forget that. Put it to one side. Give yourself 2, 3, 4, 5 years if you want, at £2,000 a year, to give yourself, an opportunity to make it. When I'm doing audition classes with our people, I tell them that these people you're going to see have the ability to sign a piece of paper and completely change your life.
Right.
Massively. You know, you could be in a pay bracket that you couldn't even dream of.
Right.
And these people have the power to do that.
Right.
But why should they just give it to you?
Yeah.
They want to see that you've got everything in place, you're professional, you've got work that they can look at, you've got a showreel they can look at, a proper quality headshot, not your bloody mobile phone like this, which most of them do because it doesn't cost anything, so that they can go to Ibiza for the week. It doesn't make sense. There's no commitment. Right. That's the problem, in my opinion, of most actors today, so-called actors. Yeah.
And another thing as well is, again, going back to what you said about looking at it now and understanding it from a casting director's point of view.
Yeah.
I can kind of see why casting directors do what they do, in terms of how they cast and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or their process of casting. Like, for example, because I'll be honest with you, at first when hearing this, I thought that it was a bit unfair, but now, understanding the logistics and everything, it makes sense why casting directors do this.
Yeah. Because they're under the cost just as much as you are.
Yeah. So, and I want to know, because obviously I've heard people say this. Some people say that this isn't true, but some people say that it is. So apparently there's this notion that casting directors, when it comes to casting talent on Spotlight, they have a exclusive list of agents that they have. So they'll have a handful of agents that they go to, basically, when it comes to like agents submitting their talent for the roles that they cast.
I think they do, yeah. And again, I understand why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, at first, because I heard someone else say this, the person that's neurodivergent, actually said this, that they think that that's unfair because they think that it creates separatism or elitism if casting directors just have a separate list, just have a exclusive list of where they only have a certain number of agents that they have, so that have been seen wherever others aren't. At first, I thought that, but then understanding the logistics of the numbers, where there's just too many actors and there's too many agents. Yeah. Again, it's not going to be possible for them to see all of them. So I think to make it easier for themselves, they just have a selected few of agents that they do have on one list. Basically.
Well, agents that approve themselves.
Yeah.
Just the way that they need actors that approve themselves.
Yeah.
This is why you see the same people. What I was saying a minute ago.
Yeah.
It's the same for the casting director.
Yeah.
They know when they go to that agency, they're going to get a quality actor who's well trained and punctual, and they delivered every time. The problem with it is, it's the same again with the actors. Building that trust takes time, and you have to prove yourself. But you only have to mess that up once, and you'll be off that list. And then you're back to square one with everybody else. You're back in the big pool.
And the thing is that if you do one thing, because I want to address that actor agency relationship, in my opinion, because if you do one thing, to where let's say for example, your agent, you get an audition from your agent, and then you decline it for some reason, basically. And if you constantly decline auditions that they're giving you, it looks bad to the casting directors, because the way it works is that agents, they build a relationship with casting directors, basically. And the thing is that if, for example, if your agent is on that list, and let's say the casting director wants to approach the agency to approach you to audition, if you're just constantly declining auditions, the casting director is going to kick the agent off the list because it looks unreliable to them, and therefore the agent is going to remove you off that list.
There's that possibility.
Yeah.
But most agents will actually fib in that point, and they'll say, "I'm awful sorry, but that particular talent's busy at the moment."
Right.
They won't say they can't make it. They'll say they're on set somewhere.
Right, okay.
And then they think, "Well, we're going to keep with these because they're obviously busy."
Okay, right.
You know, and there is a little bit of fibbing going on there, a bit of lies, you know, because, you know, at the end of the day, you don't want to tell people, well, he can't make it today because his grandma's coming round and looking after his dog for him when he goes on holiday. You know, they don't care. If you tell them they're on a set this week, you know, and I don't know an agent that hasn't done something like that, because you have to. The problem is, again, with some of the actors, they don't tell their agent where they are, what they're doing. Okay. You know, I had one that dyed her hair purple and didn't bother to tell me. And I'm putting her out as a blonde. Right. And she comes to, we have monthly meetings with all of our people on our agency. And she comes walking in bold as brass with bright purple hair. And I'm like, what is that? When did you do that? Why wasn't I told?
Yeah.
And good job I did ask her about the hair, because then she said, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you I'm going to Egypt for a month next week. And I didn't know that either, and I've been putting her out for stuff. Communication's key.
Yeah.
But as you say, it's, you know, it gets really sticky with between the relationship between
an actor and an agent.
Well, I encourage all of our people, for example, and I think all agents should do this.
Yeah.
I say to our people regularly, ask me what I've put you in for.
Yeah.
Don't feel shy of asking the question, how many things have I been submitted for this month?
Yeah.
I think that's really healthy.
Yeah.
Because it actually, there's a seesaw going on, because they feel like, well, I'm not getting anything, so I need to ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually tips the other way when you show them. I had one, I won't name her. She's a young girl that's with her in our agency. And she said, how many things have you put me in for this month? Because I've not had any auditions, I've not even had any calls, I've had nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I printed it off for her directly from Spotlight and other platforms, and they have print-offs available.
Yeah.
And in that month, she'd been submitted for 208 roles.
Right.
And didn't get a call on any of them.
Right.
So then the question now becomes from me. So now I want to know, you've seen now that I've done my job.
Right.
So what is it, do you think, why they're not asking for you?
Right. Okay.
She's talented, she's young, she's beautiful, all of that.
Right.
And you're not getting any calls. Why? What are you doing wrong? What do you? So I always ask agencies, casting agents, what can we do better? Tell us. If we send somebody for an audition and they don't get it, and sometimes it can be as simple as they don't like the hair, they don't, whatever. It could be it just don't fit the bill, and we get that, and it's never personal. But I always ask them as a follow up: did they perform well? Were they on time? Were they punctual? Were they off the book? I asked them. I sent them a report to fill in for us if they'd be kind enough to do it. And then at the bottom I just say, any suggestions at all that can make us better at what we do, so that we can in the future hopefully satisfy your needs. Please put them here.
Right.
And it's great. The feedback's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, and actors don't like that we do that.
Yeah.
But it makes it better for everybody.
I mean, overall, the way I see it, because I've heard this phrase, people say that, again, on the topic of the actor-agent relationship, that your agent works for you. And I think, if I'm honest with you, I agree with it to an extent, but I think it's more so also the other way around, the way you work for your agent. Because looking at it on the flip side, the way it works is that when it comes to being submitted for your agent is the one that's submitting you in for roles. So if they get your audition, even though you'll choose to accept it or not, they're the one that's giving you the auditions, basically.
Yeah.
Also, it's also a case of in which, where again they can take you off if you do something, and then also you can leave. So I think overall it's a partnership of where you two are working together.
It's a collaboration.
It's not one against the other. Basically, it's a partnership.
It's unhealthy that they work against each other. There's no point. You see, with it from an agent's perspective, if they don't get you work, they don't get paid.
Yeah.
It's that simple. So why would they go against it?
Yeah.
You know, I've had sometimes a joke around. I've had one of my actors, they've gone for an audition.
Yeah.
And a few days later, they've rung up and said, have they come back to you yet? And I go, oh yeah, they did, but I thought I wouldn't bother telling you. You know, because of course, if I'd heard anything, you'd be the first to know. Yeah. You know, I'm not going to hold it back from you. Yeah. So it's a pointless exercise ringing your agent to say, have you heard back from that audition yet? Of course, if they had, you'd know about it, because they wouldn't be able to. When I get people apart, we recently had somebody on Coronation Street actually, and when he got the part, I was tripping over myself to get to the phone to tell him. I couldn't wait to tell him. Right. You know, he's a brilliant actor, and they loved him, and they're going to have him back, I think, and hopefully, if you're watching, Julia, have him back. He's brilliant, and he held his own with some of the stars on there. He was great, but I couldn't wait to tell him, because it's exciting for me. I don't know what it's like. I'm an actor. I know how it feels when someone said you got the role. It's such a thrill. Yeah. And again, that we're coming back to that thing where these people have the ability to change your life completely. Yeah. Completely. Yeah. You know, if you do well on something like that, a small part on Corrie, an actual part though, not as an essay or an extra, we don't touch that at all. Yeah. And then they like you, and you were punctual, and you were professional and all of that before, during and after. You're not posting pictures of yourself next to the Coronation Street sign and all that garbage. It winds me up, that stuff. It really does. I've said it on a few of these podcasts. If I see one more so-called actor standing next to the Emmerdale sign with a picture, I'll scream, because they're doing themselves so much damage and they don't realise what they're doing. Because what that picture says is, I'm an extra. That's what I'm not an actor, I'm an extra. They're behaving like a bloody extra. Nothing wrong with extras, by the way, but if you want to be an actor, then be an actor and conduct yourself in a professional manner. You know, and be proud of your craft, and don't want to be famous, want to be an actor. A lot of the youngsters come to us these days and they just want to be famous. And are very quickly, with a series of questions, get to that. You're just looking for fame, and you're not doing it here. You're not wasting my time with that rubbish. You know, you want to be an actor. You love the craft and the art of developing a character and building the nuances within a character, and then nailing it on camera. There's such a thrill. You know, and if I get my eyesight back when I have my operation in January, I can't wait to get back to acting. I miss it so much. But we'll get there. We'll get, hopefully. Otherwise, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, you know. But so what's your ambition now, Emmanuel? What's your next step? You've had some decent roles, I presume.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. I think my general goal is to obviously make it in the industry and just work or end up being an established actor in the industry. A
professional actor that's regular working.
Yeah, basically. That's pretty much it, basically.
That's the dream, isn't it, for all of us?
However, I think I may venture into creating my own work. However, it's just the confidence to do it. But I think I'm just taking one step at a time, but I'm still focused on...
Come to our film school, we'll show you how to do it. Also, another thing that I wanted to talk about is obviously, and again, this is going to sound very controversial, but... Be as controversial as you like, I don't care.
No, but the reason why I'm saying it is because this is what I honestly see, basically. So I just want to talk about, obviously, training institutions, because we talked about it before, and just my honest opinion on it, and seeing what does work and what doesn't work in today's current climate.
Is there a set recipe? I don't know. Are you talking about universities?
Yeah.
Right, okay. I'm not a believer in universities degrees and stuff like that. I'm just not.
But I think with universities, and also with like the big well-known like acting institutions like RADA, Lambda, E15, etc.
Yeah.
But more so with universities, if you're gonna go to university to study acting, so for example, get a degree in like acting or drama, or I think it's called the former term is called film and media performance. That's like those type of degrees.
Change the title every year probably, but it means the same thing.
I personally don't think, in my opinion, and again, people are going to get offended, people are going to get stir.
Don't worry about that. Just give us your opinion. As long as it's the blind truth, it doesn't matter.
But in my honest opinion, I don't think going to university to study acting or to get any one of those acting-based degrees is worth it. Because from what I see, the people that go to those institutions or go to universities to study acting, many of them aren't even working in the industry. They're either not in the industry
and don't want to either,
or they are in the industry, but they end up doing more behind the scenes stuff. So
I suppose it's I mean, as a beginner actor, I bet you did. Everyone I know, I did this, and everybody I know did this.
Yeah.
When you first start thinking, well, I want to be an actor, the first thing we do is get in student films.
Yeah.
And we all worked with them, and we didn't get paid, and we just wanted to see what it was like on set, and someone pointing the camera and shouting action and this clapperboard, and it's all very technical. And it's a bit like when you bump into these guys 10 years later, and they're pushing trolleys at Morrison's or wherever. And I mean, literally I saw one doing that recently, and I spoke to him, and I said, listen, Patrick, what are you not in the industry? Oh, no, I was never really that interested. I was just getting through uni, really. Right. And his exact words to me was, it was a drink, drug and sex fest is all it was for 3 years. And who cared about whatever the subject was, who cares? It was all about the parties and the girls. And it's like, well, okay, I can see the attraction of that, of course.
Yeah.
But surely, if you want to be in the industry, the only way to learn is to get in and do it. I think. I don't know if that's what you were driving at, but to me, if you're going to waste your time and spend getting a mountain of debt to get a degree that is going to be about as much use as a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, you know, it's a bit like, what's the point, really? Go and volunteer. BBC, ITV, wherever, or somewhere like the independent filmmaking studios. Go volunteer, make the tea, fetch the bags, learn how to use a camera, learn how to use the sound desk, learn how to use all of that, learn about lighting and learn the actual craft of it. Because every actor I know became a better actor after learning what to do behind the camera, on the other side of the camera. All of them, they understood continuity better, they understand positioning better, and they just do. And nobody gets that from uni. Because they just scramble the way through it. They just sort of muddle the way through, get some degree at the end, and then never look at a camera again as long as they live. What's the point of that?
I mean, because the thing is that, again, this is what I come, like, three common situations. Number one, they leave the industry, they transition to another career, never use a degree, never even enter the industry. Number two, they leave the industry, however, they'll use their degree to something that is still drama related, it's still acting related, but it's not related to the industry. So, for example, like becoming a GCSE drama teacher, or becoming one of those drama teachers at the university, or at RADA or Lambda, or
teaching other people to waste their time the way they wasted yours.
Or the third thing, and this is going to tie into not a criticism about casting directors, but just a general observation. Is that a lot of them will eventually, they will enter the industry, but do the more behind the scenes job, like becoming a casting director or becoming an agent. And the reason why I'm going to focus on, particularly speaking on casting directors, is because somebody else said this about casting directors, is that a lot of them in particular, and again, I'm not trying to slag casting directors off. I'm not.
Well, you wouldn't as an actor.
I'm not. But what I'm saying is, and somebody said this, and I kind of agree with it through my observation, is that a lot of casting directors, they used to be performers themselves, but for some reason or some difficulty, I think whether it was difficulty to get seen over things, they just transitioned into becoming a casting director. So, or becoming an agent, because they wanted to help other people get seen, basically.
Sure.
So the point is that it shows you how difficult the industry is, but also it shows you that route, if you're thinking about going that route of university and you're thinking you're going to end up becoming a working actor or a subject actor in the industry because of that, it's not really the reality or the case.
No, I agree.
It's not.
I agree. Well, when I was building this place, right, I was wanting to make my bread and butter making show reels for actors and stunt people and all of that. So what I did was I deliberately targeted going out for dinner, lunch, whatever, with as many casting directors as I could lay my hands on, literally, because I wanted to know what are they looking for, you know, and what is how I got an understanding of what I do now, because when they tell you their side of it, we've got some casting directors coming on in a few weeks as it happens, but when you hear their side of it, they're every bit as much under the cosh as an actor is. And they've got so much riding on making the wrong decision. If they make a wrong decision once, you're out the door. You know, and
I assume that they have a deadline as well in terms of when to cast, as well, etc. So I understand.
Absolutely. So they're answerable to the producers, to the executive producers, the director, the money men or the money people, should I say, and they're absolutely out on a limb. So it's no wonder that they are so picky, because your performance denotes whether or not they're going to keep their job. That's a hell of a lot of pressure to live with. So, as we've discussed, but to me, if you waste your time going through university for 3 years to learn to be an actor,
it's a waste of time.
It's an absolute ridiculous concept for me. You can't learn acting in university. I suppose you could learn the disciplines of Meisner or Stanislavski and all of that. Me personally, I don't believe that's proper acting, although that'll probably be controversial for some people.
I don't think that's relevant in today's times.
It really isn't.
It's not.
It really isn't.
It's outdated, I would say.
Absolutely. I once said in an audition to somebody when they were asking me the casting director was asking me about what my ambitions were. And I summed it up with, I'm definitely more shameless than Shakespeare, that's for sure.
Right.
I'm not a classic actor, as it were. I'm a rough northern character actor,
Right.
and I could do that no problem because I've lived it all my life.
Yeah.
I must be a rare breed that I auditioned along with about 2,000 other people.
Right.
My very, very first audition when I became an actor and got an agent, and I got the role, the first one I ever went for.
Awesome.
And it was for a northern, slightly overweight dad. And I thought, well, if I can't get that, there's something badly wrong here, at least be in with a shout.
Yeah.
And for 2,000 people to go in for it, and I got the role, I was really quite pleased with that. And I thought, this acting game's easy.
Right.
Yeah, it was a year before I got another audition, but at that point I'm thinking, this is a walk in the park, this is just dead easy.
Yeah.
This is the problem. You're only as good as your last performance.
Yeah.
And if it was a year ago, tough. You just got to keep going.
Yeah.
I believe you should do something else alongside it.
Really.
Something flexible.
Right.
If I was still had the ability to drive, I don't now because of my vision, I'd probably be an Uber driver in between acting.
Okay.
Because then you can just stop when you want, go for an audition, you got nobody to answer to,
Yeah.
and then go back to work. As soon as you step out of the audition, you sign back on and you're working.
Yeah.
So you can make a living alongside it,
Mm-hmm.
but that level of commitment that is absolutely essential, in my opinion, is badly lacking in, I'd say, 90% of the people that I know to be actors.
Okay.
And they're just not committing. They're not. They'll bang and scream and shout and bang the bloody table and why aren't we getting opportunities and this isn't fair and that's not fair and they're charging too much for this and that. It's what it is.
Okay.
It is what it is. It's a skill. People come into acting, in my opinion, sometimes thinking they've been watching some film or other and they go, I can do that. Well,
Yeah.
okay, so I'm going to go do it. But you have to train.
Yeah.
You have to learn your craft.
Yeah.
Not in university,
Yeah.
on a set.
Yeah.
Go to a set, volunteer. If anybody, literally anybody can walk into this studio and say to me, I don't want paying, I just want to learn what to do.
Yeah.
They're in, they can do it.
Yeah.
So take that as a shout, everyone. If you want to learn how to make a film, come here and we'll show you.
However, I just want to ask a question, and
Of course.
this actually goes back to what we actually talked about before this.
Yeah.
So I've tended to notice it. A lot of people do tend to notice it now, and I think especially now saying that the classical method of Myers nostalgic graphic etc. is outdated. Do you think there is this trend of where casting directors are casting people who are untrained, or people who they perceive as having that natural raw talent, meaning that they're not trained, like they've never done training before a day in their lives, but then they'll go to audition, then they'll get the role like that, especially if it's their first one. Well, or people that are quote unquote in their minds real people, if that makes sense.
Well, the process, as I understand it, and again, it's always subject to change, and I always reserve the right to be wrong, by the way, before anyone shouts at me. I think when I went to the dinners, lunches, etc., with casting directors before I was building this place, and I was asking, just talk me through what you go through. Talk me through your processes of finding the right people, because as you rightly said, they can get. I mean, I was talking to one in particular. I won't name her, but she's a well-known casting director, and she said I put out a post for a casting call. I did Spotlight, I did Casting Networks, I did Mandy.com, and then social media. And she got 20,000 applicants. And with the best will in the world, you cannot go through all of them applications. And this is why they said to me, when people do show reels, keep them less than a minute and a half in total.
Right, okay.
So 3 scenes, 30 seconds per scene, and put the details at the end.
Right.
Everyone starts a show reel with the details, name, email address, agent's name, their number, and they're not interested.
Okay.
They said, we'll get to the details at the end if we've watched it that far. And if we haven't, we're not interested in who the agent is anyway.
Yeah, okay.
And they literally get a pile of files, in the old days, and they used to tell you to put your headshot on a paperclip at the front of the folder.
Right, okay.
And they wouldn't even open the folder, they just look at the file. No, just based on the headshot. No, maybe. No, maybe, no. And they end up with about 12 maybes.
Right, okay.
Then they open the file.
Right.
Then they look at the show reel.
Right.
And judge from that. The first 10 seconds of the first scene of your show reel, if they don't watch past that, you're out there back of the no pile.
Right.
They whittle it down that way. They literally spend a tenth of a second on each photograph. No, because they know what they're looking for, and they've got a rich field to choose from, because there's 8 million actors out there desperate for work.
Yeah.
So all the power lies with them in that particular dynamic.
Okay.
But all the while, as we've said already, they're also in the back of their mind, if I get this wrong, I'm out.
Yeah.
So they're auditioning every time they bring auditioners in.
Okay.
They're auditioning for the team because they want to get more work off them, just the same.
Yeah.
So it's all, and it always ends with some rich guy, girl, whatever at the end who's paying everybody.
Yeah.
And she decides who does what, when and why.
So it's really like a knock-on effect where
So it's the same for them.
the agent down to the actor.
Same with the director. A director is generally perceived to be the most important person on a set, and rightly so. I'm a director myself, and yes, and some people go on a set and think, well, what's he actually doing? You know, it looks like you're doing bugger all. Why should he go to the front of the catering queue and then go back to his caravan? Because everything on that set, the whole perimeter of that set, everything that goes down is down to him or her.
Okay.
Everything. It has to be. You know, the buck stops with that person, good, bad or indifferent.
Right.
So he needs to micromanage all of it, or she. They have to. So it seems like they're doing very little and getting all the glory.
Right. Okay.
But actually, it's not the case.
Right.
And if actors would just take the blinkers off a little bit and just see, these people aren't like they are because they enjoy being rude to you. They just don't have the time to sit and talk about your granny's boils. You know, they're here to do a job. And you do yours, I'll do mine. You do you, I'll do me. Let's make a film.
Yeah.
You know, and let's do it properly. That's it. That's the bottom line. And then they've got paymasters as well.
Yeah.
A director, just like a casting director, just like an actor, just like an extra. A director doesn't produce, he won't get another directing job. So the BBC will show him the door, or ITV or whoever. They will.
Any big studio, any big.
They'll just show him the door. If you deliver a film, they've spent £500,000 on an independent film that turns out to be a dog's dinner.
Yeah, or they'll do on the box office.
They're not going to. Yeah, they're not going to do it again.
Yeah,
they're not going to, and then you're out of work.
Yeah.
So it's the same all the way through the industry, and to me, that I don't think that's too bad a system.
Yeah.
Because what that ensures at the end is that you'll get the very best quality film.
Yeah. Cool.
You know, and if you don't, you won't see him again. So only the fittest will survive.
Yeah. So another thing as well that I want to talk about, because I think because we mentioned this before, and obviously I think we had a slight disagreement. Well, not disagreement.
Try not to bang the table.
Sorry.
It's all right. Don't worry. It's just making a big boom noise.
Sorry about that. So obviously, it was based on the topic of diversity in the industry.
Yeah.
And obviously you said that about, you know, BAME actors or actors of different minorities.
Yeah.
They tend to be getting better opportunities now.
That's the general perception that I'm getting. Feedback that I'm getting is a lot of white actors.
Yeah.
Kind of like saying, well, why does it always seem to be black actors that are getting everything, or Asian actors, or whatever? And it's not. I don't think it's the case. I actually don't know. I've not looked at it.
Right.
But what I do know is, and I've said this to many people, we have 14 people on our very small niche agency, 2 of whom are black actors, and they don't get as much more, less, or anything else than the others.
Right.
So, you know.
Yeah, because I was gonna disagree with you. I was gonna look at it from a different point of view.
Sure.
In the sense of the fact that I think generally speaking, especially myself being a BAME actor, if you want to call it that, there is a general consensus that we don't really get much opportunities anyway, because of the fact that there aren't much opportunities created for us, generally speaking, when the industry, in our opinion, is more white dominated. White actors, male and female, they're gonna get more roles than black male and black female actors. So I still kind of have that perception, but I think myself, in terms of there being diversity, or I don't want to call it racism, if I'm honest with you, I've never really experienced it myself.
Right.
And obviously looking at it from into the diversity, I think a BAME actor can get work. However, I think within our own community of actors, BAME actors, there's competition. And also, I think it also factors on location as well. So for example, here in the north, there aren't that many black actors. I think Manchester has very high concentration of black people, but I don't think there are that many actors in Manchester. Whereas when you go to London, there's a lot of black actors there. So if I was to go to London, the competition for black actors in roles would increase, basically.
Of course,
and I think the work would increase because there are, like, London has a high concentration of black people there, or BAME people there.
So what is it you think then that why there aren't so many actors of colour, or however you say, BAME, or whatever the recent term is, in the Northwest? Do you think there's a perception that, well, I won't get any opportunities anyway, so what's the point? Well, that's disgraceful.
I think they have that perception.
Yeah.
That they won't.
That's awful.
No, but I think, if anything, if a BAME actor is based here and they're not going to get roles, I really don't think it's down to racism or anything like that. I think it's down to the cultural aspect when it comes to casting, in the sense of the fact that if a director has a role, particularly if they're a white director, most of the times they won't even think about a black actor being in that role. Not because they're racist or don't want black actors in the role, it's just the fact that it just doesn't come to mind because there aren't that many black actors there.
Right.
It has nothing to do with racism, in my opinion.
So it's self-defeating, really, isn't it? Because people, black people aren't saying, well, I want to become an actor because what's the point? I won't get any opportunities.
Yeah.
So therefore, writers, when they're putting pen to paper to write films, are not writing in specific roles for BAME actors.
Yeah.
Because there's so few of them. Yeah. So it's kind of defeating itself. It's going around in an ever-decreasing circle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is really sad for me. Because, again, we've talked about when I declared my blindness, that my auditions went from about 6 a month I was getting, roughly. Yeah. Not off Spotlight, I would hasten to add, but I was getting them to suddenly none, zero, and it never, ever recovered. Right. But, so is it similar that I mean... I was told many times, and I went networking, and I was determined to make it as an actor, regardless of this. Yeah. And I'm a stubborn bugger, do you know what I mean? I'll fight in the face of any adversity that comes my way. I'll get my way around it. Yeah. You know, I sit here right now. I don't even know if you know this. I sit here right now. I'm a blind actor still. I'm a cancer patient at the moment, and I'm still pushing, no matter what. My levels of energy are depleted after the chemo just finished and all of that. But you just crack on, you just carry on. Yeah. But as I was saying to you earlier, Emmanuel, that casting directors were telling me, and production teams generally, it'll make no difference. Of course we wouldn't discriminate against you for being partially sighted. Of course we wouldn't. Yeah. We'll give you every opportunity. But in the real world, they didn't, and they never did. Yeah. In the real world, I never got another audition ever. Yeah. And it's 8 years now, and I've still not had one. So, you know, I mean, it all came. The reason what made me in the end quit, and I'm sorry to diversify slightly from what you were saying. I won't name the very famous television show in London. We're looking for a northern, slightly overweight, late 40s to early 50s, genuinely vision impaired actor. Right. They just described me to pretty a T. Much, yeah. And I went down for an audition and I got a recall, which is great. And then I got a second recall and I was down to the last few. And I thought, I'm in with a shout on this. I mean, there can't be many northern, genuinely vision impaired, slightly overweight, 50-year-old actors. There can't be many. And I didn't get it, which is okay. That's fine. I don't want to get a job just because I've got a vision impairment. But but the problem was afterwards, I was told by someone on the production team that I'd become friendly with that they never intended to give it to a genuine impaired person anyway. And actually, the person who got the role was fully sighted and just played a blind man. So I was just there to tick the box. So they could tick the diversity box. And they never intended giving me that role. Yeah. I'd been to London 3 times at 200 quid a go. Okay. It's not nice. It's not nice at all. Yeah. So do you think there's anything like that with a BAME actor or a black actor? Or do you think that the people just tick the box sometimes and, well, we've given them every opportunity and they've not come up to the mark and now we're going to...
Honestly, no. I think it's just a cultural, I won't say blindness, but just this cultural aspect of where they just don't imagine a black actor in that role, particularly here in the north. For black actors in the north, even though I've seen plenty of casting calls where they say any ethnicity, most of the times, not again. This is my experience. Most of the times they will cast if you're fit for that role, they will cast you for that role, regardless of what your ethnicity is.
Correct. Yeah.
But I think overall, when it comes to roles, particularly here in the North, there's just this case of where they just don't really imagine a black actor in that role because they just don't think about it. Like the thought of a black actor being in that role, that
doesn't even occur to them.
It doesn't even occur to them.
Wow.
So that's what I think it is most of the time.
Oh, that's a little bit sad, though, in my opinion. But I hear what you're saying, though. I can kind of understand it. But it's... I mean, I don't even think of ethnicity at all. When I'm writing my films, it never occurs to me for someone to be black, white, or anything in between. Yeah. I just see an actor in my mind of a character. Yeah. And only later do I think, well, it could be that, and it could be that, or it could be this, and then sort of fill in the gaps, if you like. Right. I can't even see my own face in the mirror. Yeah. It's because I'm centrally blind, so I couldn't be judged from saying I'm judging somebody by the colour of their skin because I can't even see it. Yeah. So I could have, but most do. I think the diversity thing is a crock sometimes. It's a crock of rubbish sometimes because they just tick the boxes and they say, well, we gave every opportunity and they didn't come up to the mark. And I get that, but I think some of it. I think there's an element of racism to that, and there's an element of discrimination against disabled people. I had David Little on here with the very first podcast in a wheelchair. Yeah, I know. He gets so little opportunity, and he's good. You know, he comes to our classes, he's on our books. He's a good actor now. Mm-hmm. You know, he is now, and he knows how to conduct himself better because he was an SA before. And we've taught him how to behave like an actor and how to be punctual and proper, and and do the job properly, professionally. Yeah. Doesn't mean he still doesn't get chances like others. Yeah. And I hate that, but I think it's disgraceful. I really do. Yeah. All right, he's in a wheelchair, so with my disability, I take these glasses off. You can't tell. Yeah. You can't tell what I can and can't see. Yeah. So I could disguise it very easily. I could be a doorman outside a nightclub, or I could be anything really. Yeah. You can't disguise the fact that he's in a wheelchair. Yeah. But surely he could be a taxi driver or someone behind a counter. Or I don't know, anything like that. He could. So why don't they just give him the chance? Yeah.
However, I think from the BAME perspective, even though I think this applies to anyone in general, regardless of race. Yeah. I think it does translate to the international perspective of where, for example, black actors or just actors in general, British actors that go out to America to find work because there's more opportunities there. Yeah. For the most part. And obviously, I want to talk about that as well because I have an opinion on it. Because obviously, the conversation is dead now, but it was years ago where, it's even though it's still a trend now, where obviously there's this trend of where Hollywood prefer to use British actors over their own American actors. And I think there's two reasons for that, in my opinion. One, the first thing is that apparently we're cheaper. So,
I thought you were going to say we're smarter than they are.
No.
Yeah, we're cheaper, yeah.
We're cheaper in the sense of the fact that if you were to translate the currency for a typical Hollywood production and then convert from US dollars to British pounds, it's going to be cheaper. Like a lot, it's going to be cheaper to the value and everything. So it's going to be cheaper to either produce here and get us or fly us out. But also there's this perception that we're very highly trained. Like we're very highly trained. Like American type of perception that we're very highly trained. So I think if you were to go over there as a British actor to America, they might feel threatened by you because they have the perception that British actors are very highly trained. Which I think comparing the training system between America and here, it probably is the case because I think we have better trainings here, better like training institutes here than in America for the most part. In America have Juilliard and then I think the American dramatic art stuff like that. But here we have obviously RADA. And I think it's better.
RADA's world famous, isn't it?
So I think there's that perception as well. So those are the two main reasons. However, I think, particularly for a black actor, Well, for any actor, because there's been white British actors that have gone over there, have been very successful as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's
Ray
all,
Winstone.
and so some people like Tom Hardy and Christian Bale have gone over there.
There's endless list, isn't there?
But I think overall, from the perspective of the international perspective, that's probably the reason why, let's say, a black actor who doesn't get that much work here, or does, but only reaches a certain point, they go to America. Like someone like Idris Elba, because he's like the common example for this. Because he was doing a couple shows here. He got a lot of work here, but then I think he said that he reached that certain point where he wasn't getting much work. So he went to America, and then he got that role on The Wire, and then his career took off. So I think examples like that, I think that's probably what happened. They might feel that they have to go over to America in order to get work.
So American actors are going to be up in arms about that. Aren't
they?
All these bloody Brits coming over here.
No. I mean, they haven't already, because there've been so many movies and TV shows where they casted British actors over their own.
Coming over here, nicking our jobs and women.
So there's that. And obviously, I have that intention of going to America as well, because I've lived there, I understand the culture. And obviously, and because I kind of have the American accent in my voice anyway.
I can hear it in certain water instead of water.
I just need to practice it, and then obviously
you'll get it.
Go over there, but I know it's going to take time.
You lived in Houston, yeah? So just to wrap up soon, what's your ambition going forward then? You just mentioned about going to the States, obviously, but in the short term, have you got anything booked in at the moment? Is anything
I have a lot of projects booked, but I think if to tell the truth, they've been delayed.
It's happening to everybody.
They've been delayed, I think, because of distraction and other things that are affecting it, so it's been delayed. Because I am going to be booked to go into France, so I'm going to be filming an international film project. Hopefully by the end of the year, if not early 2025. I got a few other projects booked, but they may go into next year, because I think everything's just been so delayed and stuff like that.
Sure. So, let me ask you a quick question then again before we wrap up. We're going to have to soon. We're getting a bit... when you say about BAME actors, do you also feel that when you do get roles, you're quite stereotyped?
That's going to come up. I personally don't feel that way, but I know a lot of other BAME actors do. I, honestly speaking, just to myself as an actor, I've never really felt... probably because I'm in the early stages of my career. Maybe the more established I become, I may see things differently. But I think as of right now, I don't really feel as if I'm stereotyped. I know there is that perception us as BAME actors that we get typecasted a lot, or we're playing a drug dealer or a fuck or stuff like that. But I've never really felt that way.
We had a young Indian boy came over to see us last week. He's thinking of coming over to our classes and what have you, joining our agency. And I said to him before he asked me the question, because I had a feeling it was coming, I said, I'd love to put you in some of our films, but don't worry, you won't be a taxi driver or a shopkeeper because I don't do stereotypes. We'll have you as a solicitor. And he went, oh, thank God for that, because that was one of his biggest worries. Because I think that's wrong too. And I think I'm not totally into this cancel culture and all of that. I don't believe in all of that, but I just think it's common decency. Just be decent to each other, Just tell the truth. Sometimes the truth is harsh, but I've always believed that I'd rather have an ugly truth than a pretty lie. And sometimes it's hard to say something, but you still got, if it's got to be said, it's got to be said. And you can deliver it with respect. So you can deliver it with compassion and forethought for the other person's feelings and what. All that's great. That's just common decency for me. I mean, I'm a lifelong atheist as well. I've never had a religion. I used to be of the opinion that if people want to be religious, that's up to them, and as long as they don't bother me with it. I've actually moved on from that now, and I think they should be banned, every single religion in the world. I think they're absolute. I won't say it, but I just think it's the levels of child abuse is unbelievable for me. in most religions, but some worse than others. But I just think if we just decent to be, you don't need to be religious to be decent. You know, just spare think about the feelings and the thoughts and the emotions of the other person and what you're about to say to them and what effect that might have.
Okay.
I don't think you should always check yourself. You should be able to speak with flow and, you know.
Yeah.
But if you think it's even slightly controversial, then at least just take a breath.
Yeah.
And think, if I say this to this person, what effect's it going to have on them?
Yeah.
You know. Many years ago, a bit of a sad story. I lost one of my children to cot deaths many years ago. And it was a massive trauma in my life. Of course it was. But within a week of his funeral, somebody told me a joke about cot death. You know, and a lot of people would have been offended, I think.
Right.
But to me, it's about the intention.
Right. Okay.
And his intention was to make me laugh.
Okay.
You know, it wasn't even funny anyway, but regardless of that, it was, had he known and then still told me that joke, well, then he's a prick. But he didn't know.
Yeah.
He didn't know. And when I told him, he's like, I'm so sorry. I said, well, you don't need to apologise because you didn't know.
Yeah.
Had you known, that's a different ballgame altogether. But the fact that you didn't know and your intention was to brighten my day up and give me a laugh.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what's funny about cot death, but you can find humour in anything, I think. Yeah. I really do.
I mean, one thing I'll say before we wrap up, because I think I myself, I've noticed about myself, and obviously people have told me that sometimes, obviously when I say something which I think is the truth, I can be quite direct.
Yeah.
and
that's great.
No, but obviously I know that sometimes it does rub people the wrong way sometimes.
That's their problem, isn't it?
No, but I think one thing I'm trying to be careful, but at the same time I can understand people who are like that. It's not always out of it malicious intent. I think they do it out of love, but I think it's just their personality and sort of how they are.
Yeah.
Because for example, I know this woman. She's a quite well-known acting coach or acting professional in the industry.
Yeah.
And she's known to be quite direct and quite forceful. However,
I think about who you're talking about. We'll go on.
But however, I can understand why she's like that because number one, it's coming from a genuine place of genuine care and obviously genuine want people to understand the reality of the industry and want people to progress in it. Basically,
that's exactly the problem. You're right.
So she said that she got some criticisms from people saying that she can be quite rude sometimes. I actually told her to not apologize because I said, myself, I appreciate it because the fact that you're telling people the truth and I understand it because I'm kind of the same way.
Well, this podcast is called The Blind Truth for a reason.
So,
yeah, it has to be, as long as it's the truth, it can't ever be wrong.
Yeah, and I think as long as it's coming from a place of love.
Yeah,
and I think she is saying she was coming from a place of love and wanted to genuinely help people progress in the industry as well.
Yeah, as I said to you before we came on, actually, what happens when someone gets offended? Nothing happens. Someone wants to get offended. I can understand you taking offence at certain things. We all do it to something or other. But again, it's about the intention and just consider the other person's feelings because one man's meat is another man's poison. It's one of them, isn't it? One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. It's the bottom line is someone's going to die, but if you want to put a different slant on it, so just I mean, I for my sins, I lived in Iran for 2.5 years, and I was a victim of racism on many occasions, even joking racism because it's still racism. I was known as the ghost. Because I was the only white male they'd ever seen in this village where I was. The kids used to squawk at me as I was going down the street like, wow. And they called me the ghost. Which is, it's racism that, isn't it? But I mean, I thought it was funny actually, but it was, but it is definitely, I'm being identified by the colour of my skin. It's racism. But again, you can choose to take offence and you can choose to go, you know what, you're an ignorant prat. And some of these people, they're brainless idiots anyway, most of them, aren't they? Yeah. I saw a thing on YouTube the other day. I can't remember, it was one of the stand-up comedians. It might have been Jason Manford, I can't remember. He was to realise the mentality of what you're dealing with some of these racist people, that he noticed on the side of the gable end of the house, that someone had sprayed a swastika, a German swastika, a Nazi swastika on this wall. And then just to the side of it, there were 2 failed attempts at doing a swastika, because they obviously didn't know how to do it properly. And that kind of tells you exactly what mentality you're dealing with. They're absolute stupid, thick people. If you cannot consider the other person may be upset by what you're about to say, and if it's the truth, say it anyway, but deliver it respectfully. If you're going to call someone a prick, you can't say that respectfully, because just because you say you're a prick, you still call them a prick, aren't you? But just don't. If they're a prick, then what's the point of wasting your breath on them? Don't say it at all. Keep it to yourself and just go away knowing that they're a prick in your opinion. You don't need to relate it to them, because all it's ever going to do is, if they are a prick, they're going to come back at you. So what's the point? You're just causing problems that are unnecessary. You can't win. So I think love conquers everything in the end. I truly believe that. As a non-religious person, and people tell me this all the time, that I should be religious, but I think love, care and compassion for everybody else will conquer everything in the end. I really believe that. Regardless of creed, colour, religion, sexuality, who cares? Who gives a damn? Why would anybody care who somebody else chooses to sleep with? What's it got to do with anyone else? You know what I mean? And I don't care. So, all right, Emmanuel, listen, finally, last question, I promise you.
Go on.
I've already asked you what you've got coming up, in the near future. What would be your perception of you've made it? Let's say, what are you, 27? Let's say by the time you're my age, 58, going on to 60. What would you say at 60 means you've made it? What would you have needed to have done to say, at 60 years old, I've made it?
It's funny, because I actually wrote a post on this on my Facebook post.
Right.
And I said I didn't want to come across as arrogant, but what I said was, when it's a case of in which, in terms of my career, when I hear people say, oh, that Emmanuel Ale film is good, or that Emmanuel Ale film is awesome, that's when I know that I've made it. Because the fact that means that I've established myself as a lead actor in movies. I was constantly getting work, basically. And
someone's acknowledged your craft.
Yeah, basically. That's
beautiful.
To me, that's when I know that I've made it.
That's fantastic. That's the best answer I've ever got to that question.
Really?
Because most of them, it's like, well, I'd have £5 million in the bank, or whatever. I've been interviewed by Jonathan Ross or whatever it bloody is, Yeah. But for you to say, yes, that somebody somewhere has recognised my talent and the graft that I put into that talent to make that talent be out there.
Yeah, and the fact that everybody over the world is seeing my movies where I'm the lead role.
Yeah, hands down the best answer I've ever had to that question.
That's when I know I've made it.
Good on you.
So yeah.
Well, that's a great note on which to wrap it up. And I want to say, Emmanuel Ale, thank you so much for joining us today on The Blind Truth. It's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
And I hope to see you again sometime.
All right, well. Okay. Hopefully we're together soon, hopefully.
Well, I've got something in mind that I'm going to ask you about as soon as we finish here.
No worries, that's fine.
So, tune in next time to The Blind Truth. Thank you.
Thank you.